Hello, thank you for joining us today. My name is Michael Knipp, and I like to talk about books on YouTube. Thank you for coming to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about a book whose title I have a very hard time remembering off the top of my head, so I'm going to have to read it. It is called The Utterly Uninteresting and Unadventurous Tales of Fred the Vampire Accountant, which is the first book in the Fred the Vampire Accountant series. This book was self-published in 2014 by the author Drew Hayes. Thankfully, everything about the title of the book is a complete lie. The book is neither uninteresting or unadventurous, but it is about Fred the Vampire Accountant, and that was something I was not completely prepared for when I picked up this book, because I just wasn't completely prepared for the actual voice of the character coming across so strong in the writing. Now, I will have to admit, I don't know that many accountants in real life, so most of my accountant experience is going to be built off of stereotypes from things like Parks and Recreation. There's the whole Ben Wyatt accountant storyline. This fits that narrative perfectly because Fred is a super boring and uninteresting dude who is unexpectedly and seemingly without purpose turned into a vampire one day. And instead of following a traditional narrative arc of a vampire where they become this bloodthirsty monster who just goes crazy, Fred was a very boring and organized and uninteresting character in real life, so that only became more exemplified when he became a vampire. The way the prose is written as someone who is just trying to pay attention to details and explain the story as plainly as possible. It is humorously self-deprecating, but also just very straightforward in a way that seems like it comes directly from the mind of someone who is an accountant in the stereotype of the Parks and Recreation characters. And I think that works really well. The way that Fred describes his life as a vampire and the way that he has to deal with his bloodlust and the way that he deals with the other parts of his life, the way that he has no social life, he builds a business around working at nighttime, all of these things, super interesting. I think the author does a great job there. And this story is told as if it were a TV show. It's episodic in nature, where there are, I believe, 5 stories in this collection that is the first novel. And each of those stories has 6 or 7 chapters that make up that individual story. And the entire book does have a plot line that moves forward through all of them, but each of the individual tales are told in digestible chunks that are able to be absorbed quickly in and out. The whole book as a whole is not that long, but I also enjoy the episodic nature. And I really do think it's written like a television show instead of being written like a traditional, more episodic book, because it does like reintroduce elements of the characters in case you read them and then forgot about them. I don't know if this book was originally like published in serial form, but the way that it is written really does feel like a sitcom show. A sitcom show that is based around the life of paranormal fantasy, that is. And it is a paranormal fantasy. I guess it's slight spoilers to say that other elements of paranormal fantasy come into this, but if there are vampires in this world, you might also expect that there are other elements of this supernatural side of things that might come into the story. They do. And the world is slowly built out over the course of these 5 shorter stories into something that by the end is actually a lot bigger than you would expect in a book that only takes a couple hours to read from front to back. I really enjoy the way that this book introduces side characters along the way, and then those characters frequently carry forward. It's not the deepest story, it's not the most hard-hitting story, and oftentimes it's aiming for comedy. And the thing about comedy is it's so subjective. Like, comedy is the most subjective of the art forms, if I were to just take a guess. And I will say that for me, the comedy in this book was really hit or miss. It's really aiming for that intentionally kind of kitschy style where it's almost like the characters and the world and the whole story itself is saying, hey, look at us, we're quirky, we do funny, really unexpected things. And it works sometimes, it doesn't work other times. I like the conceit of Fred being this vampire character who is just like not into adventure, though he happens to find himself in amazing situations all the time. The other cast of characters can make jokes that hit. make jokes that don't hit. Overall, I enjoy it, but also there are some times where it's just like, that was a little too corny. That was a little too self-referential. I don't know. It's hard to nail down exactly the parts that don't work for me about the comedy. Because of its episodic nature also, it can be hard to find a flow. So I really do feel like this book sort of fits best in my own brain. If you read a story, then take a break, then read a story, then take a break. It's not something you're going to binge. At least it's not something that I would binge or recommend binging, because of the way that it follows traditional TV show episode arcs where there's a introduction, rise, climax, close, and then it's over, and you have to start that process again for the next short story. Knowing that right now there are like 7 of these books and potentially more to come in the future, that's a lot. It sounds daunting, but I am still interested in continuing with the series. I think it's probably something that I'm going to be using as a palate cleanser. It's not something that I would necessarily binge, but also it's something that you could throw on, maybe read one a month just to use to, I mean, heck, the way that it's episodically written, if they continue to be this way, I could probably fit in the episodes individually between other books. I don't have to even read the whole book at once, though sometimes it feels good to accomplish something in your life. Sometimes things in life are so hard and there's so many things going on, and you just try and you struggle against everything, and it feels like you are not making progress on anything, and you just want to finish one thing. You want to see one number go up. You want to finish a book and say that I did something productive in my life, because everything else that's going on, my wheels are spinning. My wheels are spinning. I'm sorry, I don't know where they came from, but I do think you should check out the utterly uninteresting and unadventurous Tales of Fred the Vampire Accountant. I think I got it right from memory. You could see I was looking not at my screen, I was looking at you guys. Thank you. If this sounds like something you want to read, let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more videos from me, please subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to talk about this book or anything else, there is a Discord link in the description down below where you can hang out with some of the coolest kids on the internet in the Book Friends Discord. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you again soon. I love you and goodbye.
No one ever get enough. Always looking out tired. Sleep. No one ever get enough. If I don't show up, I might get fired. Sleep. No one ever get enough. Always looking out tired. Sleep. No one ever get enough. If I don't show up, I might get fired.